I'm currently on board the Celebrity Reflection, and I boarded with a bad idea in one big question. How much does your cabin really matter? So I did what any logical person would do, and I booked one of the largest suites on the ship and then followed it up with the cheapest. The same cruise and the same ship, but two very different starting points. But what actually changed wasn't nearly as simple as I thought, so let's talk about it. Before we dive in, a quick note to let you know a portion of this video will be comparing the retreat experience to being in an interior cabin, but that's not the entire focus. I'm also going to be doing a full review of this beautiful ship because beyond a handful of suite areas and amenities, you're still walking the same decks, seeing the same shows, and for the most part, experiencing the same moments as everyone else on board. Oh, and if we haven't met yet, I'm Evan from Family at Sea. If this is your first time watching my channel, I'm glad you're here. And if you've been here a while, you already know how much I appreciate you. If you're ready, I am. Let's go. This entire cruise hinged on one uncomfortable question I couldn't shake. Is it worth paying money to stay in the retreat, or was that money better spent elsewhere? So I booked two different cabins that existed on opposite ends of the ship, but might as well have been in two different universes entirely, at least when it came to price, with the Royal Suite coming in at $16.25 per night and the interior cabin costing $287 per night. So for the same ship and same itinerary, one experience cost more than 5 times as much as the other did. And that number matters because once the price gap gets that wide, you're no longer comparing upgrades, you're deciding what kind of experience you actually want, and you're asking whether comfort, space, access, and atmosphere can really justify that kind of premium, or whether we've just gotten very good at assigning luxury a price tag. And honestly, it's pricing like that that trips up a lot of people when booking their cruises. With prices constantly changing, it's incredibly easy to overpay without even realizing it. One sailing looks expensive, another looks like a deal, and suddenly you're clicking a flash sale banner hoping for the best. And that's why I always book through Cruises It. Instead of rolling the dice or booking blind, you're working with someone who actually knows the ship, understands pricing patterns, and can tell you when something looks good and when it doesn't. They've saved us thousands over the years, helped us secure better cabins, and kept us from making choices we would have regretted later, which is more than I can say for Frank, who once thought he found an incredible cruise deal and accidentally booked himself into a limited availability upgrade that turned out to be a storage closet with a bed and a very confident sales description. Frank, if the confirmation email says cozy more than twice, it's not an upgrade, it's a trap. With their low price guarantee and people who actually care, Cruises It makes booking simpler, cheaper, and a whole lot less stressful. So click the link in the description below or call the number on the screen and tell them Evan from Family at Sea sent you. You'll be glad you did. Celebrity wastes no time when it comes to settling you into the experience that lies ahead. Embarkation is fast, almost deceptively so. From the curb to our first steps on board was less than 15 minutes, and the muster drill took less than 2, and suddenly you're on board with no sense of buildup or friction. There's no moment where you felt tested or hurted, and the vacation starts before you're even fully aware that it has. And as I began to explore the ship, it didn't take long for the personality of the Reflection to begin to come into focus. This is a ship from an earlier era of Celebrity built around a classic open atrium that runs vertically through the center of the ship with music that carries upward, bars that surround the space, and people dance, linger, and move through constantly. It feels lively and social in a way newer ships often don't, but that charm comes with trade-offs and they show up quickly. Some of the spaces that define newer Celebrity ships are missing or scaled back here. Craft Social is gone, replaced by Cellar Masters, which looks refined but feels darker and quieter with limited service. The Sky Observation Lounge is noticeably smaller than that of other ships in the Solstice class, and Quasar has shifted from a nightclub to a conference space, offering very little value to most guests. Up on deck 15, the Lawn Club serves as the emotional center of the ship with real grass underfoot, Open sightlines and multiple dining options at the porch and the lawn club grill that give this area a relaxed, unforced energy. These areas are distinctly celebrity, and it's the kind of space that encourages lingering instead of movement and conversation instead of spectacle. The deck below the main pool greets you with a large pool and 4 hot tubs, and forward of that the solarium, which offers something for guests who want warmth, views, and space without the soundtrack. And you start noticing that pattern across the ship. The reflection doesn't force a single vibe. It gives people the option to settle into the experience that fits them best. As I explored the reflection, I kept coming back to a simple realization. The classic cruise experience hasn't lost its appeal even as newer ships chase bigger spectacle. Your cabin choice doesn't just determine where you sleep, they set the tone for how the entire cruise unfolds. Across 2 back-to-back sailings on the Reflection, I experienced the ship from 2 very different angles. One in one of the largest suites on the ship, and the other in the cheapest room on the ship, an interior cabin. My interior cabin was very basic with very outdated decor, a queen-size bed, a compact bathroom with a single sink and a tight but functional shower, a very small desk with the only electrical outlets in the room, a small television, and a closet that gives you hanging space, but no shelves at all. But interior cabins do one thing extremely well. They let you sleep in complete darkness, and no early morning light reminds you it's time to wake up, which allows you to rest deeper. When you wake up, you're ready to start the day without even thinking about the room you just left. It asks very little of you, and in return, it doesn't get in your way. And then there was the Royal Suite. The moment you step inside this massive suite, you almost forget you're on a ship floating across the open ocean. That is, until you step out on its massive balcony and you're greeted with some of the best ocean views on the ship, comfortable seating, and your own private hot tub. As you enter the room, you're first greeted with a real living area with a pull-out sofa, a love seat, a big screen TV with Bose surround sound speakers, a wet bar, a dining table for 6 that allows you to order room service from any of the specialty restaurants on board to enjoy in your cabin, and a separate guest half bathroom. There's room to spread out and relax without having to constantly pack things away so you're not tripping over them. And off of the main living area is the bedroom with a queen-size bed with a proper desk and vanity, a walk-in closet, and a bathroom that feels genuinely indulgent by cruise standards with 2 sinks, a deep soaking tub, and a massive shower with 2 shower heads and water pressure that's better than just about any cruise ship you'll ever go on. But it's not just the cabin itself that changes the experience, and that's where this comparison really starts to get interesting. What comes with the Royal Suite goes beyond the room itself. You get access to Michael's Club, which is the suite-only lounge with a nice wraparound bar, fridges stocked with water, sodas, and beer you can grab yourself at any time, and comfortable lounge seating. The atmosphere itself was a bit hit or miss. Sometimes you'd walk in and it was the perfect quiet space to relax and recharge, and at other times there would be large groups traveling together, filling the space that were anything but quiet. You're also given access to Lumine, which is their suite-only restaurant with a calmer atmosphere than the main dining room and an elevated menu, as well as Blue, which is their restaurant for Aqua-class guests, so you have a variety of options and means you're never scrambling for reservations or wondering where to eat. Priority Embarkation smooths out day one with a VIP lounge while you wait to board, and in the cabin you'll find small touches like 2 bottles of premium liquor and monogrammed pajamas that reinforce this experience is meant to feel elevated without being loud about it. Or that's the promise, at least. But the reality of the retreat experience depends heavily on the people delivering it. You're assigned a butler, and while we don't use our butler for much, we do enjoy the rhythm of it with a quick daily check-in, evening treats left in the room, and a fresh bucket of ice without asking. Those small human moments are usually what make the suite experience feel personal. But unfortunately, our butler was essentially a ghost. There was no presence at all. There was no check-ins, no daily treats, and no connection at all. Now, to Celebrity's credit, we mentioned this to one of the concierges in Michael's Club, and they were just as disappointed about that as we were. And they ended up giving us a new butler, and the difference was night and day, with the new butler showing exactly how much that role can elevate the experience when it's done well. And dining at Lumine told a similar story. The food was excellent every night, but the service often felt stretched thin. We waited more than 15 minutes for a table multiple times, and every meal it took more than an hour before our entrees arrived. The food quality was there, but the service didn't meet what we've seen in the retreat on other ships. With that said, none of this ruined the experience for us, but it did reinforce an important truth about the retreat experience. The room sets the stage, but the people determine whether the experience actually lives up to the brand promise. Walking around the Celebrity Reflection feels very different from stepping onto a modern Edge-class ship. At roughly 125,000 gross tons, it's smaller by today's standards, and that scale shows up immediately in how manageable everything feels. You're not constantly hiking between different zones or hunting for hidden shortcuts. The design leans classic. This isn't a bright, glass-everywhere ship with Scandinavian design, and instead the decor is warmer, darker, and more traditional with rich woods, layered lighting, and a layout that feels intentionally composed rather than open for the sake of openness. And it doesn't try to impress you at first glance, and instead it grows on you over the course of the cruise. The atrium is the heart of that experience. It rises vertically through the ship, anchored by cafes, bars, and music that pulls people into the space throughout the day and night. It feels social without being chaotic, and it gives the ship a sense of energy that newer, more segmented designs sometimes struggle to replicate. The Ensemble Lounge on Deck 5 is one of those spaces that anchors the ship experience as you pass through after a specialty dinner, just grab a drink and end up staying longer than you planned thanks to its large wraparound bar, comfortable seating, and live music that fills the room in the evenings, but the volume stays conversational so you can actually sit and talk while enjoying the performance. Intentional feel to it that a lot of the newer ships just sometimes lack, where they've perhaps decided on form over function. The Sky Observation Lounge on Deck 14 feels like a reminder of how ships used to treat quiet space, and it was truly one of my personal favorites on the entire ship. It's smaller than what you'll find on other Solstice-class ships thanks to them adding a bunch of suites that cut into the space, but it's still one of my favorites. During the day, it's a calm, light-filled place to sit with a drink and watch the ocean slide by without distraction. And at night, it transforms into a full-on nightclub with a packed bar and dance floor with live DJ. Up on the top deck, the Lawn Club remains one of Celebrity's most distinctive features. Real grass at sea feels unexpected even years later, and it's not just a visual gimmick. It becomes a place to relax, watch a movie, catch a football game, grab a casual meal, or simply slow down for a moment. On the pool deck, the vibe is active but contained. It gets lively without tipping into overwhelming like you'll find on some ships, and the layout makes it easy to find a lounger without feeling like you're in a sea of bodies. And when you want the opposite energy, the Solarium pool absolutely delivers. It's calmer, warmer, and more adult-focused, and offers a quiet retreat without feeling cut off from the rest of the ship. And I'll say this, the Reflection isn't a ship that's trying to reinvent cruising, it's just refining the experience. Food on the Reflection follows that same theme as the ship itself. It's classic, varied, and more flexible than it first appears. Opus is the main dining room that stretches across decks 3 and 4 at the aft of the ship, and it's bright, open, and filled with natural light thanks to the wall of windows with ocean views. The menu rotates nightly, service feels traditional without being stuffy, and it works well whether you're settling in for a full dinner or keeping things simple. Specialty dining gives you plenty of ways to change the rhythm. Tuscan leans into rustic Italian comfort with pastas and some great steak options. Murano is more formal and focused on refined service and classic French-inspired dishes, especially the Murano lobster dish prepared tableside. And Cuisine is home to La Petite Chef that turns dinner into an interactive experience that's more about fun than fine dining. The Lawn Club Grill offers a relaxed steakhouse feel outdoors, while the porch offers up a variety of seafood dishes, and Sushi on 5 rounds it out with fresh sushi rolls and noodle bowls. For Suite and Aqua Class guests, Lumine and Blue add another layer. Lumine has already been covered, but Blue deserves a mention for its clean, modern decor, lighter menu, and some of the best ocean views you'll find dining on board. But when it's time to grab a drink, that's where the ship really shines. The Martini Bar anchors the evening energy, complete with their bartender show at 8 p.m. each night that draws a crowd with its fun energy and music to match. The world-class bar was my favorite bar on board thanks to its list of cocktails you can't get anywhere else on the ship, including my favorite, the Azteca, which is a spicy tequila cocktail and the best bartenders you'll find anywhere. The Sunset Bar on Deck 15 at the aft of the ship delivers exactly what the name promises, while Cellar Masters offers a quieter, wine-focused venue with a dark ambiance where you can have a quiet conversation or catch a game in the evenings on one of the many televisions. And during the day, the pool and mast bars out on the Lido deck keep things moving when the weather cooperates. Nothing on the Reflection is revolutionary, but the variety works and it's easy to find something that fits whatever kind of mood you're in. Entertainment on the Reflection sticks closely to the classic cruise formula for better or worse. The production shows are solid, but they're definitely not showstoppers, and Broken Arrows was the standout for me. It's built around modern rock and pop with a stripped-down, high-energy feel. It reminded me a lot of Choir of Man and Norwegian, just on a smaller scale and with less polish. And their second show, Feel the Funk, leans into Motown, soul, and funk with strong vocals, familiar songs, and choreography that brings a lot of energy. Both shows were enjoyable and well executed, but neither felt like something you'd tell people to book this ship specifically to see. Around the ship, live music does a lot of the heavy lifting. The atrium fills up in the evenings with a band that gives the space real energy, while the ensemble lounge and a few other venues offer more relaxed performances that work well before or after dinner. It's the kind of entertainment you stumble into rather than plan around, which fits the ship's overall vibe. During the day, it's exactly what you'd expect from a cruise at this scale, with trivia, game shows, dance classes, bingo, and casual activities that give you structure to the sea days without demanding your attention. None of the entertainment is truly groundbreaking, but if you enjoy familiar cruise entertainment that's easy to dip in and out of, the Reflection delivers exactly that. The crew on the Reflection is consistently friendly and professional, though at peak times it's clear where the operation starts to feel stretched. Morning coffee lines at Cafe Al Baccio routinely backed up, and trying to get a drink at the Martini Bar was a challenge, taking 15 to 20 minutes to get a single drink in the evenings. But what surprised me most was dining service. Lemonade, despite the excellent food, often felt strained. We waited 20 minutes for a table twice, and it regularly took more than an hour for the entrees to arrive. And by contrast, Opus, which is the main dining room, ran smoother and more consistently, which isn't what I expected going into things. That said, there were bright spots that really stood out. The bartenders at the world-class bar were excellent and consistently on top of things. Sam and Andre and Michael's club were fantastic and helped make that space feel welcoming no matter how busy the ship got. The retreat concierges Anita and Elia were outstanding and handled issues quickly and professionally. Both of our stateroom attendants in the different cabins did a great job keeping the rooms in shape, even if we didn't see them often. And once Michael stepped in as our replacement butler, he showed exactly how much that role can elevate the experience when it's done well. The atmosphere on board, though, was noticeably different from other Solstice-class sailings we'd been on. These shorter 3- and 4-day cruises attract a very different crowd. The vibe leans more toward a nonstop party than the relaxed, upscale getaway we typically expect on Celebrity. I spoke with an officer who commented that these sailings see a much higher percentage of first-time cruisers who were only there to party. While Celebrity knows the experience isn't the same as their longer itineraries, these shorter cruises generate significantly more revenue through the casino and onboard spending, and it's often one of their most profitable ships. Now, none of these things make the Reflection a bad ship, but it does change how the cruise feels, and it's something worth knowing before you book. By the end of the week, I had a pretty good sense of what the ship gets right, where it shows its age, and what I'd do differently if we ever find ourselves back on the Reflection again. If you want to see the Martini Bar show, you have to treat it like an event. Get there 20 to 30 minutes early and grab a seat near the center on either side of the bar, because that's where the performance actually unfolds, and it can be extremely difficult to be able to see if you don't have a front row seat or you're not 7 feet tall. But on the flip side of that, the production shows were the exact opposite of what we expected. On longer cruises, you typically have to get to a show at least 30 minutes early if you want to get decent seats. But on these shorter sailings, most people are there to party and not to see a show, so finding seats was never an issue. In fact, we walked in a couple times with only 5 minutes before the show started, and there were still plenty of great seat options. And if you're a sports fan like I am, watching my Buffalo Bills play up on the Lawn Club screen was one of the most memorable moments I've had on a cruise, even though they lost. But if we were to do it again, I'd book dinner at the Lawn Club Grill and ask for a table near the windows so we could grab a great dinner while we watch the game and relax without having to sit on the ground without back support for 3 hours. And finally, circling back to the question that set all of this in motion. Was it worth it to book an expensive suite versus an interior cabin? Well, as much as we like the retreat as a concept, it just didn't justify the price premium on this ship. Between the stretched service and Lumine, the louder groups in Michael's Club, the lack of a dedicated retreat pool deck, and an initial butler experience that was non-existent, it never crossed into truly premium territory. Sam and Anita were truly fantastic, and I genuinely hope our paths will cross again someday, as they honestly elevated the entire experience, but not enough to close the gap. So if we did sail on the Reflection again, which we probably wouldn't unless they start doing longer sailings, we'd likely book a balcony and enjoy the ship for what it already does well. The retreat wasn't bad, it just wasn't necessary. And that ended up being the most important lesson of the cruise. But as I answered one question, it raised a much bigger one. Because the Reflection isn't the only ship where the suite experience looks great on paper, but feels very different once you live it. And after sailing in suites across every major cruise line, the gaps between them are a lot wider than most people realize. And that's exactly what this next video is about, where I rank the suite experiences across every major cruise line, breaking down which ones actually feel worth it, which ones come close, and which ones miss the mark entirely. If you're thinking about splurging on a suite, that's a decision worth getting right. So don't stop here, I'll see you in that one next. If you're ready, I am. Let's go.